Hey guys, it's Ian at SS8000 Cars, and today we're really focusing on the Speciale. And I want to talk today about what I like about the Speciale. Now, I think that obviously one of its key features are its looks. I mean, in truth, I can't think of another car that actually looks more cohesively designed than the 458 Speciale. Now, the 458 was already an extremely good looking car, and as a consequence of that, it had a great base. But if anything, if there was a criticism of the 458, it was quite soft and rounded, and although a beautiful looker, maybe just lacked the slight hard-nosed edge that I feel they've given to the Speciale. Now, as you know, the differences are at the rear a completely redesigned rear diffuser, exhaust system, and the mesh that runs from the one side of the car to the other. That is completely new to the Speciale. The 458 had 3 exhausts in the center, and by taking away the 3 exhausts and putting the main exhaust on either side of the central diffuser, what it's allowed them to do is actually install at the bottom aerodynamics, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but basically aero flaps. And it's also allowed them to have a race car style diffuser. I've seen race cars that seem to have less pronounced diffusers than this car, and it lends an incredible aggressive stance to the car. Obviously set off by 20-inch lightweight alloys, which are completely unique to the Speciale. And although all Ferraris have carbon discs these days, these brakes are straight from the Ferrari, and they're absolutely huge. Next thing I like about the Speciale is the engine. So if I open it up, it's done by flicking the switch actually into the pillar here, all set in Alcantara. We can open this, incredibly light. Now, to an extent, it's helped slightly by the hydraulics on either side, but there's no weight in that at all. But still glass, so it must be very, very, very thin. And then you have the covers, and the air filter covers are all in carbon. And I just think that is an extraordinarily good looking engine compartment, most of which is on display through the glass for everybody to see. Now, as you know, this is a 4.5 V8 naturally aspirated engine, and as a consequence of that, it may be one of the very last. The 488, of course, is twin turbo, and although having had the California quite recently to evaluate, I have to say the twin turbo installation is extremely good. So you probably heard there my third reason for absolutely loving this car, and that is the noise it makes. Oh my goodness. I've said before that I think the GT4 Porsche makes a good noise, but truthfully, when the Ferrari gets fired up, really the V8 engine just sounds manic. And perhaps my only engine that I would say would compare to this is the V12 Ferrari that we had in the last car, which was our Ferrari FF. Absolutely wonderful. It's a very, very important part of the integral part of a car is the sound. So that's my third reason. The fourth thing I really like about the 458 Speciale is the cabin. Now, Ferraris have come under a bit of criticism for their digital dashes, and not everything is maybe as ergonomically sound as some cars, but personally I like it. You've got the analog rev counter, which you can see is in yellow in this one, and then on either side you've got two digital displays, which I'll go through a little bit later. But what I really wanted to give an impression was over how airy the cabin is once you're in. Now obviously you can probably see there is a bit of a step up and a step across to get into the race seats, but the race seats are incredibly comfortable, and although it's fairly basic inside, I have to say I really like it. It's a nice place to drive. It's comfortable. It's immensely comfortable actually, and it's nicely finished. You've got the Alcantara, as I think I've said before. You have the Alcantara and the carbon fibre mix. The doors are almost all carbon fibre with a little bit of Alcantara on the top, and again the Ferrari steering wheel, which I always think it sort of reminds me a little bit of what you see on racing cars. There's lots of information, but most of it is pretty intuitive. From the Manitina, which sets up the settings and the balance that you want with the car, so either has your traction controls on or off. You have the ability to put it in sport, race, or if it's a little inclement the weather, into wet. And on this side you have the engine start, the bumpy road button, which actually softens the suspension. The suspension in this car is very, very good when you're on slightly rougher roads. One of the things that I think is fantastic is the 5 lights that show based upon when you're getting high up in the rev range, because these cars are so powerful that when you're really going for it, you're not really watching anything other than the road in front. Even coming down to look at the rev counter makes you feel like that's a moment too much to take your eyes off the road. The next point that I wanted to cover in terms of how I love this car is the driving position. The driving position is absolutely spot on. So they say that when you're sitting in the seat and you put your arms forward, when they're stretched out, your wrist should be on top of the steering wheel. And in terms of what you can see out, and in terms of where the instrumentation is, it's absolutely spot on, and it's a fantastic position to be in when you're actually driving really quickly. I love the pedals. The carbon fibre pedals, which are shown here, are really huge, so you can't miss them when you're changing gear. Now, as you probably know, this car has racing seat harnesses which effectively are for the track, and when you're on the road every day they're a little bit of a nuisance, because of course, unlike inertial seat belts, you can't move forward. And clearly I haven't got them on at the moment, but you can see on the passenger's chair where you actually have the full harness, and I think it sort of lends to the excitement of driving the car. And truthfully, again, because of the driving position, everything is within reach. You don't actually have to reach to do anything. Now, there's no glove compartment in the Speciale, which you would have had in the standard 458 and 488. It's just pads effectively to protect the passenger if they're being thrown forward, probably more likely on braking, because obviously on acceleration you're pushed back into your seat. But everything else can be reached without you really having to lean forward, and as a consequence of that, I'm not sure that the racing harnesses in themselves are as limiting as they would be perhaps in a normal family car. So overall, fabulous driving position, and you're right here, the engine is right behind you, and you get to listen to all the wonderful noises. Obviously a very important component in any car that has racing aspirations are the tyres. Now the Speciale has had Michelin develop specific tyres for the car, and they're called the Pilot Sport Cup 2s. They're a semi-race tyre, so they come into their own on a racing circuit, but there's enough tread on them to be able to use them in the wet on normal roads. So as a compromise, it's a great tyre, and I can tell you that on the track they work really well. I would say that in the wet you have to be very careful of how you apply the power, but I think any car that has 600 HP, that would be the case whatever tyres they were wearing. I love the fact on this car there are no wings. Now wings on a car do actually slightly spoil the shape. Now obviously in creating downforce they're exceptionally useful, but as you can see from here, the Speciale does actually have a lip at the back of the car which aids downforce in conjunction with the diffuser, but from the back you're really not aware of the fact that it's in any way different to the standard 458. It's only when you see the side profile you can see they've actually curved the rear of the car up to provide the additional downforce. Now we like cars with wings as well, and our GT4 has a big wing, as I think I've said before, but in essence this car is extremely pure. So you can see here, if I bring it down, you can see how the rear lip is probably brought up about 4 or 5 inches, where on the standard car it comes straight across there. But it's not in any way interfered with the looks of the car, and in fact, if anything, as I mentioned earlier, I think it provides a bit of an aggressive stance to the machine. Now of course there are scoops and air vents absolutely everywhere, which you can see quite clearly from the front spoiler. Try not to catch the light. At the moment it's actually quite pleasant, but 2 minutes ago it was raining. You've got extra grills in the front bonnet, you've got grills at the side here, all to help with the airflow, and then you have the grills at the rear to provide extra air for the heat, probably for the heat diffusers, and of course the wire mesh on either side of the engine to help allow heat to escape from the engine compartment. I think this is probably a once-off, this car. I'm sure the new 488 Speciale, or whatever they call the new version of the 458 Speciale, is going to be absolutely stonking, and the standard 488 is already faster than this car. But whether they'll ever get the engined sound from the naturally aspirated engine with the new 488 Speciale, I simply don't know. I mean, the 488 with the twin turbos sounds incredible, and I'm led to believe that actually there's no turbo lag, and certainly on the California that we had there really wasn't very much turbo lag. It's the best installation of a turbo that I personally have ever come across. But this is a naturally aspirated car, and it is such a pity in some ways that manufacturers have felt that they've had to go to turbos. But at least Ferrari retained the V8, so you still get a wonderful sound from the 488.